everyone, welcome to Fantastic Flips. On this episode, I'm going to be making over this mid-century dresser that I found on Facebook Marketplace for only $10. Because this piece is made from laminate and not real wood, I am actually going to go ahead and paint it using bare chalk paint. According to the markings on the back of the dresser, it appears that this dresser was built in November of 1968. So the first thing we're going to do is give the whole piece a good scrub down using TSP. And then after I scrub it all down with TSP, I'll go over the whole piece again using just plain water. This piece was already pretty clean when I got it, but it doesn't hurt to give it another wipe down anyways. The next thing I'm doing is removing all of the hardware. The original hardware is pretty cool, but I decided I'm going to change the hardware just to give it a little more of an updated look. But I will keep this hardware and use it for a future project. The next thing that I am doing is marking the new holes for the new hardware. A simple way to mark the center of your drawer front is to measure from corner to corner, making an X in the center, and then the center of that X will be where you'll drill your hole. Next, I give the top of the dresser a good sanding using 120 grit sandpaper. I'm doing this in order to cut through the really hard glossy finish that is on the top. And then I go over the entire piece using 240 grit sandpaper. Now I am mixing up my automotive body filler. I'm using this instead of a wood filler just because it's a little bit stronger. It's also actually a little bit cheaper as well. This is the same stuff that is Bondo, but this is a generic brand that I bought at Canadian Tire here in Canada. I'm going to use it to fill some of the chips on the corner of the top, and then also to fill all of the holes from the previous hardware. It's important to keep in mind that this stuff does dry pretty quickly, and some of mine actually hardened up before I was even finished filling all of my drawers. I quickly mixed up another batch off camera, and then I've continued to fill all of my drawer fronts. After I let it harden for a few hours, I came back and I gave everything a sand down with some more 240 grit sandpaper and made everything nice and smooth. After I finished sanding everything, I gave it another wipe down with some TSP and then just some plain water afterwards, just to get rid of all of the sanding dust and get it ready for primer. I am using this Bullseye 123 water-based primer. It is usually recommended to use a shellac-based primer for laminate furniture, but this one was on sale, so I thought I'd give it a try, and it actually worked out just fine. I'm using a roller to do all of the large surface areas, and then I am using a 1-inch brush to do all of the smaller trim. After my second coat of primer is finished drying, I go over and do another scuff coat with the 400 grit sandpaper, and then now it is ready to paint. The paint I'm using is this chalk paint made by Bear that I got from Home Depot. And the color is called Australian Jade. This is my first time using chalk paint, and I am just brushing it on using a 3-inch brush. I did find that it did leave a lot of brush strokes, but became less noticeable as it started to dry. A few things that I didn't do that I have since learned that you should do is, number one, start with very thin coats and work your way up. I think I started with a very thick coat at the beginning, and that's why I had more brush strokes than I wanted. Also, it's a good idea to damp your brush before you start painting. Not so it's super wet, but just so you have a little bit of moisture in the bristles. After I let my first coat completely dry, I did another scuff sanding with the 400 grit sandpaper before I applied my second coat. For my second coat, I decided to thin the paint a little bit using some water, and that helped smooth out the finish a bit. And as you can see, I have the dresser up on these risers right now because I took the legs off because I'm going to work on those while I'm waiting for the last coat of color to dry. And now I am just sanding the legs and getting them ready to paint. I'm painting them gold to match the new hardware. I am using this metallic gold paint from Rust-Oleum. I used this spare block of wood I had lying around to make a stand to hold the legs up while I spray painted them. I just drilled 4 holes in them and stuck the legs inside. And then after I finished spraying the legs, I decided I wanted to add some extra detail to the front of the drawers. So on the top drawers, I added this bit of gold paint at the top in a kind of a triangle pattern, just to give the front of the dresser a little bit more visual interest, also to make it tie in with the gold legs and the gold hardware. I let the gold paint dry, but not completely, and then I carefully peeled back all of the masking tape and revealed nice crisp paint lines. After completely letting the paint dry, I screw the legs back on. Top coat I am using is this polyacrylic from Minwax in a semi-gloss finish. And I am brushing it on using a foam brush. On the top of the dresser, I ended up doing 3 coats with a light sanding with 400 grit sandpaper in between, and for the rest of the dresser I used just 2 coats. And now I'm going to install the new hardware. I got this hardware from a local hardware store and it's made by Richelieu, and it has a nice modern brushed gold finish. And that was the final step, so now we can reveal the finished piece. What was once just a drab laminate dresser now has a fun new color that totally suits the 1960s mid-century retro vibe. Alright, now let's talk about the numbers. So I paid $10 for the dresser, then I paid another $25 for the new hardware, and then for things like paint, primer, and clear coat, because I didn't use the full cans and I have plenty left over for other projects, I'm going to round around $25 to cover all of the other miscellaneous costs. So that puts me at a grand total of $60 spent on this project. I haven't decided yet how much I'm going to list this piece for because in my area, laminate furniture doesn't usually fetch a high price, but in the next video I'll give you an update and let you know how much I sold it for. Thank you so much for watching this video and making it all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button and turn on notifications, and I'll have more videos coming soon.